Okay, you should be able to see the agenda. Today, we've got one of our own, Pam Butler, is here in Nashville, and she's going to be featured on our community spotlight. And then Kartika Ramen from Kartika, are you actually with Tableau, or your Tableau via Salesforce?
I'm with Tableau.
You're with Tableau.
Yeah, Tableau. Yeah.
Okay, great. And she's out in Seattle, and she's going to spend some time today talking to us about a release navigator. And when we talked about this on the leadership team, it was really exciting. We thought, well, this is really a good thing, and I hope you like it as much as we think we're going to like it. Then Eric's going to come on, and we're going to do trivia time. And I want you to know that we have two $50 gift certificates. If you were here last time, we found out that we could have a first and second place winner. So stick around for the trivia time that we've got today. And then Sam Epley is going to be our featured speaker of the day, followed by a few announcements. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Welcome everybody. And Lindsay, feel free to introduce Pam.
All right. Pam, are you ready? Yes, I see you're unmuted. So I've been looking for people to feature in our community spotlight. If you would like to be featured to get to know our community and share a little bit about who you are and what you've been doing in Nashville with your own job, profession, or Tableau in a personal level, let me know and I'd be happy to feature you in an upcoming month. I chose Pam since she's been a regular in the last couple years, and I see her smiling face over there, but we have never met each other personally, so I wanted to get to know her more. She works at in the Vanderbilt Medical Center, and I work in the university, and we've never crossed paths before. So one of the things I learned was that Pam, you've recently been trained as a business analyst, but could you tell me a little bit more about your career trajectory leading up to making this move into a business analyst?
Sure. Well, you probably wouldn't bump into me since I've been mostly remote since I started the job. I think I've only been in 3 times. But yeah, I started out with a business finance degree in college, and I did work in IT at HCA in my early career. But then I went off track and started my own business. I owned a retail yarn shop in Green Hills for 14 years. And then we closed during the recession. And I went on to run the creative arts department of the Tennessee State Fair for a few years. And I transcribed immigration cases for the Department of Justice from home while taking care of my kids. So nothing at all data analysis, but a few years ago, we started talking about options for getting back into the workforce, and my husband works in IT, and he knew a guy who taught web dev at NSS, and he thought it was a pretty cool program, and I looked into it and ended up applying for the data analysis track. Seemed like a field where there were a lot of job opportunities, especially in the Nashville area. I took a preview class, it was 3 weeks. And then I took the first full-time data analysis class that they offered. My class started a week after the big tornado hit East Nashville, and 2 days into class, we got shut down for COVID restrictions. So we really learned Zoom overnight, literally. But we were all pretty committed. And honestly, there wasn't a whole lot else to do in the world. So I can't speak for people who had young kids at home, but my kids were already in middle school and high school. So the lack of outside activities allowed us to really focus on class. We did a lot of, we used real data from local companies. So we worked with Metro Nashville Police, Parks and Rec, Healthcare Blue Book, and they had polled people in the IT community to see which skills would be the most useful for data analysis. So we learned advanced Excel, SQL, we got introductions to Power BI and Tableau, and then we learned Python and mastery of the Google. So,
was it more individual? Yeah. Was it more individual learning or kind of group learning, or was it a combination? Or
it was a combination. They gave us some exercises to work on, alone, and then we would regather and go over the answers. We did some data camp classes on our own. And then we would break off, we would use Zoom's breakout rooms function to, work together in small groups. And we worked on projects. We had a few days to a few weeks turnaround time on most of our projects because, it was kind of a tight class. But we got to work with almost every person in the class at some point. And, they did a lot of career help too. So we did mock interviews with people from the community. We were supposed to get professional headshots, but we didn't get that because of COVID. So my teenage daughter took my picture. Thank goodness for her Instagram skills. But we did roundtable and roundtable meetings with people in the industry too.
Could you tell me a little bit more about your cohort in your class? Were there a lot of people starting out like second and third careers, or was it more all, fresh out of college, or what was it like?
It was a pretty wide variety. Now, I mean, there were only 18, I guess, people in that class. It was a full-time class, so less people were able to take it. I think there's more people in the part-time classes that they offer, but our class ages ranged from 23 to 60, I think. And I think most folks were probably in the mid-range there looking at their second careers. And we had people with, college degrees in art history, didn't have to be math or business or IT or anything. And some of them didn't have a degree at all. We had military vets, we had musicians, and we had one guy in my class who was a tobacco farmer for generations. And he was just looking for something new for his family.
Oh, that's exciting. Can you tell us where you are now and what you enjoy about the job and when you get to use Tableau and how you use it?
Yeah, so a few months after, there was a bit of a hiring freeze when I finished class in June 2020, but within a couple of months, people were hiring again. So I just kept applying and kept learning on my own to try to, learn how to use all the keep the skills that I had learned. But I ended up getting hired at Vanderbilt in the Department of Anesthesiology. I work in a small group called VAPOR, which is, let's see if I can remember it, Vanderbilt Anesthesiology Perioperative Informatics Research. And I use mostly about 90% SQL. I don't use Tableau a whole lot in this job. We use about 10%, I'd say. It's mostly for the doctors and medical students to access specific aggregated patient or scheduling information in a way that they can manipulate without getting into coding. But I was recently assigned a project where they would like me to pull together a dashboard showing important ICU outcomes. And it's kind of up to me to figure it out. So I'm kind of excited because I think I'm going to get to really stretch my legs and use Tableau a lot more.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. I think some of the work that you've seen in the last year from these meetings should be helpful.
Yeah, definitely.
So, excellent. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you here today, Pam, and at our monthly meetings, and just keep coming back. And thanks for sharing.
Thank you. I've been learning a lot. I figure I don't know what I don't know. So being exposed to it here really helps me see what else I can learn.
Me too. I'm new. So I'll turn it back over to the group.
Hey, just a couple things. Pam's been coming to the meetings, I don't know, at least a couple of years now, or at least it seems that way. I keep seeing your name showing up on the profile, and we're really glad to have you here. I happen to do a little of those portfolio reviews and some of those interviews, mock interviews over at Nashville Software School. And they do a really fine job. They do a really, really good job over there. So congratulations, and glad that you're over at Vanderbilt. You're probably wondering why I'm talking and why Nick's not talking. And I want to share with you, Nick has decided to step down from the leadership team. He's going to continue to be involved in the group, but he had a number of things going on in his life and he needed to step down. At this point, I want to introduce Sekou. Sekou, you want to unmute yourself and kind of introduce yourself? Sekou has joined the leadership team, sure. And we're really pleased to have him aboard. And he is also going to tell us just a little bit about himself and introduce our next speaker. Take it away, Sekou.
Yeah, hey, thanks for that introduction. I'm Sacred Tyler. I think I presented in January. Yeah, but live in Nashville. Been active in the Tableau community for a few years now, and wanted to just come and help out leadership. And I got some grand ideas, and I love the people here that are running it. And I really want to see this particular user group grow and expand. So I'm excited to be a part of the leadership team and to see where 2022 takes us. And as far as our speaker for today, I'm really excited about this one. We have Kartika Raman, who is a lead technical writer with Tableau. She has 15 years of experience in the tech industry and has been with Tableau more than 4 years. She's a member of a team of writers who document Tableau server, and she's passionate about helping people use and implement Tableau successfully in their organization. Outside of work, she loves gardening and playing console games, JRPGs, and action. So really excited about the session. I think it's gonna be really great. So with that, it is on you, Kartika.
Oh, thank you. You saved me the introduction part, which is great. I can just move on to my next slide. Let me see. I'm going to try and share my screen here. Is everybody able to see the
Yes.
apps? Okay, great.
Yes, we can see you.
Oh, fantastic. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, my name is Kartika Ramen. I'm a lead technical writer. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for letting me come and lurk in your user group today. It's a pleasure. So yeah, we talked, I'm going to be talking about the Release Navigator, which was released or launched earlier this year. So before I get into the details of what it is and what you can do with it, I wanted to give you a little bit of a background how it came to be. So when we were talking to customers like you and how you think about your upgrade planning, what came out of that is one of the things that is important to you is, you consider what features are available in a version or a release. And what I mean by that is, like, you may have a problem that you're trying to solve, or you have a certain requirement that is not being met by the version that you're currently using, and you're looking to see what's coming up to see if that is helpful. So right now, or before Release Navigator, and really even now, the way we were doing this was to, had two different places to go to find out about new features. So one would be the tableau.com, where you got information about the new features in the latest release and what's coming up maybe in the next release. And then there's the Tableau help articles that kind of listed all the features, but they were kind of separate for each product and version. So then what we started hearing from you is like, hey, it would be great to have a comprehensive list of all the new features, but I need it to be customized to my upgrade plans. I want to be able to search for features and see which version it was released. And I kind of would like to have this in a single location and a way to kind of take a look at it together, not go to 3 different places and collate things myself. So that is kind of what, drove us to kind of do this. And this really started as a hackathon project. We built a prototype of sorts. We put it in front of Zen masters, ambassadors, and people who sign up to participate in our pre-release program. And we iterated, and yes, we got confirmation that the most useful piece of this is that comprehensive, customized list of features. And so what I'm going to call the first version of it was released in early February or mid-February, I want to say. So what is the Release Navigator? It's essentially a resource to support your upgrade planning. It focuses on new features. Currently, it is supporting server, desktop, and prep. You can search for a feature, find out which version and product it is available in. Like I said, you can get a customized list of features based on your upgrade, specific upgrade plan. You can get more details, learn about that feature itself, dig deep into it through links to our help article. that's in a nutshell what it is. But I think more than just talking about it, I'm going to try and see if I can demo the actual product right here. So this is what the Release Navigator looks like. It's currently on Tableau Public, and we'll talk about the other locations shortly as well. So the first view is search by feature. So let's say, for example, you heard from a colleague or a coworker at work saying that, hey, I heard that this new feature is available. Is that something that we're looking for? Should we upgrade? Or maybe you heard it in a user group meeting like this, or in a TC conference. So anyway, so the point is, like, you heard about this new feature that's come up and you'd like to learn more about it and assess whether that makes sense for you to upgrade. So for simplicity, I'm just going to use the word maps and say, hey, we're using maps feature, but I heard something new has come up, so I'd like to see what that is. So when you search for that feature, it gives you a list of features that are related or has the term maps in it. As you can see, it tells you what products it was released in or it's available in, and in what version it was released in. If you want to learn more, dig deeper, we have a learn more link that hopefully will take you to, are you guys able to see the actual help article that I'm displaying? I want to make sure. Okay. Yeah, I see.
We're seeing it just fine.
Okay, great. Yeah, so then it takes you to this deep dive help article where you can read more about the feature and then say, yeah, this is what I'm looking for, or maybe not, maybe something else. So the idea is for us to help you kind of figure out, if this is something that you're looking for. And so, and then next, maybe you're further along in your upgrade planning. You have looked at features, you have looked at various other data points, because features not the only upgrade driver. But you have now determined what version you want to go to. And now you're looking for more deeper information, that customized list and things like that. So starting with the server, what this view does for you is for you to be able to select a few filters that is particular to you and then build a customized list. So let's say, this is the version that you're currently in, 2019.3, and you can choose which version you're planning to go to. Here, I'm going to just select the latest version. Then we have something called status for the server, and there's new and there's changed. And the way we have interpreted this in Tableau, I'll speak to it, but I'll be also looking for your feedback on whether that makes sense to you. So new features, I think, is a little bit obvious. It's new features. Change features is the way we think about it at Tableau, is features or changes that have happened in that release that either directly impact your upgrade process itself, or maybe something that you might need to test before you upgrade, or something that you should be aware of because that would have changed after you have upgraded to the new version. So for this demo purposes, I'm going to say, I just want to know everything that's changed. Okay, I do not know why Tableau Public is doing that. Let me do that again. Great. And then there is the add-on, which are packages. You may or may not have this in your organization, so you have the option either to include it or filter them out. For this demo, I'm just going to choose all. I just want to know everything that is changed. And now I have a customized list that's particular to the filters I've chosen. So since I said that I'm currently in 2019.3, we're giving you the list starting in 2019.4 all the way to 2021.4. I also want to call your attention to this top level, for lack of a better word, I want to say banner. What we're trying to do here is provide alerts on things that we think will impact your upgrade broadly for all customers. So for example, this is the end of maintenance announcement. So if there's something that we think is that you should be aware of in a broad way, so we'll provide those alerts there. So now I have this customized list. I'm just going to take a couple of examples to see how, why these are categorized as changed. So one of the things that catches my attention as soon as I see is, oh, I see this Tableau server installer has been rewritten. That sounds like could impact the upgrade. So what does that do? So then when I click on the learn more, I'm taken to this article that tells me that installer switches have changed from pre-19.4 to 19.4 and later. So if I was using automated installation scripts for upgrade or install, this is something that might impact me. So I might have to take a look at it. This topic gives you what those.
She froze.
I think you've frozen.
Yep.
Okay.
While we're waiting on her to come back, I think this is incredible so far. Bringing all this stuff together and being able to filter and just the sheer compilation of things. This is really amazing and will make a lot of lives easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sure she's going to be right
Yeah.
back. And we've got a few questions for, we've built in some time, so not to worry. I think this is great because I know some of you know I do a lot of work on the forum and I get questions all the time about, is something available? When was it released? I'm on this version and so on and so forth. But this, I think this is just great. Okay.
We would like to do our poll. We could do this in the interim before
Yeah.
she jumps back on.
Can I jump in and do the poll?
Yeah. Go right ahead.
All right. So one of the things we are looking at is doing a hybrid meeting in June. A hybrid meeting would be having some in-person and sort of virtual component. So we created this poll. We hope everybody can take it and let us know how you would like to do that. So relaunch that. And if you can fill out the poll for us sometime during the meeting, we would appreciate it. So one of the options I guess we're looking at, we can do the in-person tug, or we could just do a social event if we just want to get together at a pub or some other gathering place, restaurant or something, and just get together socially. I've heard, I mean, I like the idea of meeting at a pub, but I've heard doing a hybrid meeting from a venue like that is very difficult because of the background noise and everything. So let us know what you would like to do, and hopefully we'll all get together this summer. Would like to point out too that we are not having a meeting in May because that's the national conference. So if we wanted to do a social, then maybe May would be a good time to get together. All right.
And it does look like Kartika's back.
All right.
Oh, good.
Yes, I am. Sorry, internet connection. Gosh, something happened to it. So I'm back now. Are you guys able to hear me?
We hear you. We hear you just fine. Now, what you have to understand is that we're here in Tennessee, and sometimes we get a little overloaded with things. And in all honesty, we've had this problem before here in Nashville, where somebody gets frozen out. So, Eric, let me just do a check here. Eric, you're ready to move on at this point?
Yes, we're ready to go. I'm done with the poll and announcements. So
Okay, it's back at you, Kartika.
Okay, let me share again and make sure I catch up to where I was. So I don't know if I kept talking and it was already lost connection. But let me know. Let me know if you remember where I left you all.
You were talking about the red bar at the top where we were talking maintenance agreement right there. That's about where you
Okay.
froze up.
All right, great, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, and really sorry about that. I was going to show you a couple of examples where how we were thinking of changes of impacting your upgrade process. So one of the examples that I was trying to talk about was the Tableau server installer has been rewritten. So for example, if I click here, it takes me to this topic that tells me, what has changed and how it might impact if I have an automated installation or upgrade. So if you have that, then this is a topic of interest to you. Another example might be that's broad, might be a CPU requirement update. That looks like it might impact everybody. Anyway, let's go learn more. And it takes me to this topic where it shows me all the latest hardware recommendation, including the CPU processes and such. Coming back to that, so on the same theme, you can look at desktop, which has very similar type of filters and customized lists and information. So again, you enter the version that you're currently in, enter the version that you're trying to upgrade to, and select if you want to filter in or out of these packages. And we don't have a concept of new and change in desktop. We kind of have this only for the server. In desktop, we think of everything as new. But if, again, I would love to hear your feedback on what you guys think. Again, you can go to any of these and learn more, click learn more to actually see what the feature was about, if that's of interest to you. I think you're beginning to get the theme that we're going in for here. And so is prep, same things as desktop. The one thing that is a little bit different for prep is we have what we are calling, this is the minimum Tableau server version. This is more about the compatibility. So what that means is if you're using Tableau prep, a version 2021.4.1, that's the example here, you would need to use server, at least that's on 2021.4 if you want to publish your flows and schedule your flows on server. That's what it is, the compatibility between Tableau prep filter and Tableau server version. We also have specific links to the product downloads and release notes that are specific to that product that you're looking at. So this one should take you, for example, yes, it does to the Tableau Prep Builder, where you can pick your version, look at the resolved issues, download your files, do your testing, and continue with your upgrade process. That is pretty much what this tool does. It is pretty simple. It's the first version we released and based on the customer feedback that we heard. Going back to the presentation, what are we actually, where can you find this? And yeah, that's for a minute, I couldn't find my cursor, sorry. Yeah. So where can you find this? Like I just showed you, you may have noticed that it was on Tableau Public. It's also available from within the product itself under Discover pane under the Resources tab. Hopefully this makes it easy for you to find. Again, if you have feedback there, if this is not easy for you, if you were expecting this to be in some other place, let us know. And so what's next? Next, your feedback is really important to help us figure out what we should do more and what we should do to improve. One of the things that we are looking at is adding Tableau Online to the list of products there. So yeah, please try it out. give us your feedback. Oh, and I forgot to show you something that when I was there in how to give feedback. The feedback is actually the little link here, have feedback, let us know. You click on that, it takes you to a form where you can answer some question and, you know, add your comments. There's a place to add your comments and any feedback you want to give us. So yeah, that was my presentation, and thank you very much. But if you all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
This is really great. You know, we were talking, I do a lot of work on the forum, and I have people all the time asking about features and when they were released and where they were, are they applicable to their particular version? And, you know, with so many different options out there, it's kind of tough to keep track of. We did have a couple of questions, and in the form of feedback. Is there any chance of getting, having this list also the beta releases so that we can see when the betas are going to come up, or have the thought in here that we can see what features are being tested in beta at the same time on the same place?
Oh, that's good feedback. Yeah, we're definitely looking into that. Right now, we do have something called coming soon on tableau.com that may or may not, you know, be the right solution, because, you know, they have a certain time that comes out. But definitely, we will definitely look into that for sure. Yeah. Yeah,
it would be nice to have it all in one place.
Absolutely.
Does anybody else have a question at this point? Okay, Eric, I think we're ready for you.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll start sharing my screen.
Your screen.
I can take it over.
No,
Okay,
I just stopped it. So it should be
there we
Okay.
go. We're fine.
So here's the Cahoots pin. So if everyone can open your web browser and go to kahootit.com, 730-9430. While we're waiting for people to join, I'll sort of read the results of the poll. We had an overwhelming yes to the would you attend in person. Almost 90% of the people said yes to that. Public meeting space was the winner, although a workplace conference room came in a close second. Hybrid meeting was the big winner there, 71%, 30% for social gathering. And Brentwood was the big winner for the location with 57%, but downtown and West End both came in at around 50%. So I think there's in-person meetings in our future. So thank you all for participating. I'm going to end the poll and start the Kahoot. All right, so start. So this is on the features of 2021.4. You can go use the, virtual connections are a new content type in Tableau Prep, Tableau Server, Tableau Online, or Tableau Desktop. I'll let you know that sometimes the answers are in the graphics. So if you get stuck, hope your eyes are good and you can read the graphics. The higher points are given to people who answer the quickest. So if you have to look at the graphics, you're probably not going to win. But BMK, way to go. So Slack integrations were improved by adding explain data integrations, ask data integrations, virtual connectors, or Slack channel as a data source. Ask data integrations was added in 2021.4, and Mac jumped to the lead. All right, parameters were added in which product? Tableau Server, Tableau Prep, Tableau Catalog, or Tableau Desktop? We've already had parameters in several of those, but 21.4 Parameters were added to Tableau Prep. And Mac jumping out in the lead again. So use copy and paste in dashboards to easily duplicate. This is a multi-select web containers, images, text boxes, or download buttons. So this is a great new feature if you work on multiple dashboards or multiple versions of dashboards. So the only thing that it doesn't do is the download buttons in that list. Way to go, Mac. You can see you can easily copy duplicate images, boxes, and web pages. All right, what's new in Tableau Prep in 2021.4 calculations? Index, rank, fixed LODs, or tile? All right. Everybody got that one right. And virtual connections share access to tables. How? By defining virtual noodle models with a defined data policies with securely embedded service account credentials, or by extracting data centrally. Right, so again, was multiple choice. So the only thing it doesn't do is a virtual noodle model. I made that one up. So here it is. You can securely embed service account credentials, define data policies, and extract data centrally. I'm looking forward to using that someday. Secure trusted relationships between apps and Tableau are called trusted apps, connected trusts, trusted connections, or connected apps. Connected apps is the correct answer. And JBP is the winner, and CMAC came in second. So if you will send a direct message to Jim Diener in the chat box with your email address, he will send you a link to the with an email thing.
Yeah, we'll be sending out a $50 gift certificate to each of you, the two of you. And that's actually going to come from Kelly. She's going to send it out directly.
Ah,
but
okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good job, Eric. Sekou, you want to introduce our next speaker?
Yep. We have next in line Sam Epley. Sam Epley is an analytics consultant at Data Drive and has been using Tableau since 2020. As an active member of Data Family Co-leads the Twin Cities Tableau user group, was recently featured as a Tableau public feature author and is Tableau desktop certified analyst and professional. He started using Tableau Public to improve his skills and develop a data visualization portfolio. His work is often featured in Sports Biz Sunday, which I have seen. He does a lot of great stuff. I think he did a tournament as well, and I didn't win it for whatever reason. I think there was some bias there. Totally joking. But no, Sam led a really great effort with one of his Sports Biz things that he built out last year. Outside of Tableau Public, he spends time with his wife and 3 children and serves in the Minnesota Army National Guard. He enjoys watching sports, reading, and listening to music. Sam's great. Really excited about this one. So take it away, Sam.
Awesome. Thank you, Sekou. Let me know when everyone can see my screen here. You see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam Epley. And today I'm going to be talking about my dashboard design process using Tableau. So today's agenda, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to, Sekou had already touched on some of the different things, but I got a couple of pictures of my family that I want to show, and a little bit about me, an overview of my process for how I go about designing and thinking through dashboards. And then as a part of that, I'm actually going to walk through a specific example using a makeover Monday that prior to developing this presentation, I hadn't seen the data, I hadn't worked with it at all. But I wanted to get something new. So it's about the American Time Use Survey, Makeover Monday 2019, week 23. I've got a fairly lengthy list of different Tableau resources that I really have, that's how I've taught myself Tableau over the course of the last 2 years, and then leaving some time at the end for Q&A. So a little bit about me. I live in Hopkins, Minnesota. It's a Western metro suburb. I'm a husband and father of 3. You only see 2 kids there because the third one was taking a nap, and at the time she was like 5 months old. And so you don't wake a napping baby. It's not a good idea. So as Sekou had mentioned, I serve in the Minnesota Army National Guard. I'm an officer candidate. I'm looking to become a commissioned officer here later this summer. And I've been consulting since 2016, but it's been Tableau focused analytics consulting really since the start of the pandemic. He had also alluded to my heavy involvement in the Tableau community and the data fam. As of yesterday, I've published 375 Tableau public visualizations. They're on my profile. I was recently recognized as a January 2022 Tableau public featured author. I've had 3 of my visualizations be selected as Tableau Public Viz of the Day. I have the Certified Associate, Certified Professional, Certified Data Analyst, and then the Certified Associate Consultant Tableau certifications. So I've learned a thing or two over the course of the last 2 years, but I regularly participate in Workout Wednesday, and a lot of my work that I do a lot of sports business for fun. A lot of that gets featured by Sports Biz Sunday. I also participate in Back to Biz Basics, and occasionally crank out another Makeover Monday Viz, even though it's not actively maintained. So what I want to walk through now is just thinking at a high level conceptually, what is my dashboard design process, and what is kind of the different steps that I take and that I'm thinking through from start to finish. When I've got an idea of, I have a dashboard that I'm looking to present, what are the big pieces that I need to take into consideration? So the first most important step I would say is you have to understand your audience, because if you don't know who you're going to be talking to or who you're going to be building something for, it's hard to ensure that you adequately are taking their needs into account and what they care about. So it's very important to understand who your audience is. The second step that I go through is I gather data, and I make sure that my data is trustworthy, that it's something that I can point to and know that I'm correct in referencing a specific source. Then once I have the data and I know who my audience is, that gives me kind of a general sense for, well, okay, if I'm a executive, what are the types of things that I might care about? And like, let's say, for instance, you're dealing with like standard superstore data. They're going to care about some high-level sales metrics, maybe some inventory metrics, depending on the use case, obviously. But knowing that I've got data, now what I'm trying to do is dig in and try and see if there's anything interesting, specific insights that I can call out, either through an annotation when I'm actually putting together the dashboard later on, but being able to identify either trends or seasonality or different things that can help me have a better understanding around what's going on with respect to my data. So once I've identified some insights, then what I look to do is select the chart types that enable you to tell a clear story. And data communication is incredibly important in the world that we live in today. And whenever I'm looking to tell a story, I want to make sure that I'm using kind of the best possible way to communicate something. And this goes into the next point here of using best practices to accurately display the facts. So an example that I often see get criticized on Twitter is whenever a bar chart is used and the axis does not start at 0. Because the whole point of a bar chart is that you essentially use length of the bars to encode specific values. And there are very, very limited use cases where you would ever want to have a bar that did not start at 0. Because if you think about it, like I've got, I'm about 6 feet tall, my wife's about 5'6", and I've got my kids that are, maybe like 3 and 3 feet tall, maybe like 2'10" or something. And if I were to start that chart at 2'6", I'd have some very small children, and my wife and I would be giants. So in terms of thinking about like the best way to communicate data and make sure that you're not misleading, it's important to take that into mind. Then thinking about actually taking all of these different components that we've thought through and assembling them effectively on a dashboard so that it looks nice and clean and polished. And then the last phase of this, if you've done all of this work, you know who your audience is, you've developed, you've dug into the data to understand what you're working with. You've been able to put together a well-crafted story that clearly communicates and accurately communicates what the situation is, what the details are and whatnot. Now it's a matter of being able to communicate that out to the rest of the world. So whether or not that's a Tableau public viz, like my Makeover Monday, the one we're going to walk through here later on is, whether it's something like that, or if it's kind of behind closed doors where it's an internal operational dashboard that your company is using, making sure that you can share it in the right environment so that you have an opportunity for others to consume that information and be able to make better decisions and apply the learnings that can come from that. So I'm going to dig into each of these 7 steps a little bit in a little bit greater detail. But with respect to understanding your audience, you got to know who's using your dashboard. So some questions that I like to ask whenever I'm coming up with a concept for a dashboard, whether that be for my work as a consultant or whether that's for something I'm doing for fun. So trying to understand what are the things that they care about and what sort of decisions are they responsible for making. So like if you think about the perspective of like a business analyst versus like a business executive, they've got different types of decisions that they need to make on a daily basis. And generally the dashboard that they should be consuming would reflect that. So understanding what type of interaction will they have? Will this be a type of dashboard that they're popping up as soon as they get to work? Or is this something that's kind of on like an operational dashboard that's like on a TV in a centrally located area? So just understanding how, like, do they need to be able to dive in and drill deeper, or is just the high level exposure of kind of a snapshot of things, is that satisfy the requirements of the user? And I kind of hinted at this a little bit about jumping in on a computer versus having it on a screen, but thinking about what types of devices are going to be used to consume this. So are they going to have like I've got a 32-inch TV here at my desk, or are they on laptops, or are they on tablets or phones? Thinking about how your intended audience is going to consume this enables you to ensure that you're setting them up for success to most easily consume it. Because if I'm sitting here with my 32-inch TV of a monitor and I'm building this enormous dashboard and I publish this and it's for an executive, and I come to find out that the executive is just rocking on his iPhone 5 SE, he's going to have a lot of navigation to go around the dashboard to modify filters. But if I get a good understanding of who my audience is, how do they intend to interact with this dashboard, that ensures that I am actually capturing that. So maybe for a dashboard, a desktop user, we can give them that big canvas to work with, but then building a custom view that is specific for mobile that has things more appropriately configured so that the executive isn't having to scroll left to right to try and find a filter for a specific thing on the dashboard. So next step, if we understand who our user is, next thing we need to do is to gather data. So make sure that you're using trustworthy sources. Over the course of the last couple of years of working in consulting and analytics, there's this saying around data that you're trying to find a single source of truth. And in working with some organizations in the past where different people look at different numbers and different systems where they were trained that way 5-10 years ago, and it's just a hard habit to break, making sure that you have one definition that everyone is aligned on, that ensures that you have a trustworthy data source where everyone knows what's going on. So understanding what your data means, understanding what certain columns or different columns within your data or different ways that things are pivoted potentially, making sure that you know what your data is and having a good grasp around like a data dictionary. So how are these things intended to be used? You've got a code of things. It's like, oh, code 01, code 02. does that just mean one or two, or does that translate to a lookup in a different table? So making sure that you're understanding what is fully embedded into your data, and that way you can build accurate representations of that data and make other connections to other appropriate data sources along the way. And one thing I want to make sure that I call out is making sure that you're citing your sources. And even if it's in like an internal business operations dashboard, it never hurts to add a little bit of a snippet of text or like a collapsible container that explains that this is what the data is, this is where it comes from, this is the steps that we took to either clean this data or arrange it or join it, or the different data sources that come together. That ensures that as we are, when there's that conversation around, well, what's your source of data? Someone can point to that and say, this is exactly what they did to the data. How about you? So that way you're not kind of caught in an awkward situation where someone's questioning the accuracy of your data. So the second step of gathering data. The next step is taking that data and identifying insights. And this is part of the exercise we're going to go through a little bit here, where I've already got some ideas built around this, but in terms of the dashboard that I've already built. But it's important to explore your data source to try and identify, are any of the following things happening? Are there trends or patterns, or by dimensions? Are there certain characteristics that go, like for instance, within Superstore? If you're familiar with the data source, you've got three main product categories. You've got technology, office supplies, and furniture. And if you understand that within the furniture category, you have a subcategory of tables that is a money pit in terms of profit, where it's not profitable at all. If you didn't know that about your data and you had subcategory and then you had profit, without being able to glean that or see that, you would never know that tables is a highly unprofitable type of category. And for those who are new here to Tableau or haven't worked very much with Superstore, that's something that you'd come to find eventually, looking through the data as you have an opportunity to do so. An additional thing to consider is trying to understand, are there certain anomalies or outliers that exist within my data? And a good talking point with respect to that is, are these anomalies or outliers actually accurate pieces of information? There have been numerous tables I've worked with in the past where there's like a default value for a date field, which just so happens to be January 1st of 1900. And given that the modern computer, the concepts behind it weren't invented for like another 40 or some odd years past that, unless you're dealing with like birthdays, if you have like an 80, 90, 100, 110 year gap between some dates in your range and then this default value, that would be an anomaly that we would either want to correct for, or talk with the folks on our IT or data team to ensure that we can get those values cleaned up so they're more accurate. So important things to evaluate with respect to that, and do those things actually reflect reality? So important things to consider in terms of that. And with respect to like trends, thinking about change over time, thinking about seasonality, and the dashboard that I built here that I'll show here in a little bit goes through a couple of those examples. So next, so kind of recapping a step so far, we've gone through and we understand who our audience is. We've gathered our data and we can trust our data. We've gone through and now we have some insights that we've been able to identify. Next, what we're looking to do is to, based off of what those insights are, we're trying to identify what are the correct, or what are some of the best ways that we can look to communicate this using good, effective charts. So I don't know if I would consider myself necessarily old school, but I think there's just something really clean and compelling about a well-designed bar chart or line chart. And there's a million different ways that you could visualize certain types of information, but I think that the charts are really effective and they work. So I'm not discouraging anyone from from voyaging off into looking at different types of data chart types. But I think it's important to understand what works, and at the same time, being willing to experiment and see if maybe communicating something a little bit differently allows it to be more accurately interpreted by your audience. So when you're thinking about like values by dimension, so that example with like profit by subcategory, a bar chart works really well for that. A tree map in this case would not work well because you have a negative value. And it's hard to negatively encode something. So a tree map would not be a good example of what a bar chart would be. Thinking about values over time. So that's where you have a line chart, an area chart, potentially a bar chart, or like if you're thinking about like a construction management or job management schedule, a Gantt chart could work really well for that. If you've got geographical data, you've got maps. If you're trying to compare, you could use either a bar chart, like a reference line, or a bullet chart is a really great way of comparing current value compared to either previous values or like a quota or a target. A distribution of value, and this is something that we're actually going to dive into a little bit here with respect to histograms and box and whisker plots and some density plots. We're going to be working a little bit today with histograms and box and whiskers. That's how you can explain, are my data points equally distributed? Is there a bimodal distribution? If you don't know what that is, Google it. Google is your friend. And then with respect to proportion of total, so thinking about like a stacked bar or a stacked to 100% type of bar, or pie charts or donut charts. Baked food charts are always good. I'm a fan of pies and donuts, but always be thinking about, is the chart that I'm selecting to communicate this insight, is it going to cause potential confusion, or is it going to enable my audience to see that and within a couple of seconds know exactly what's going on and be able to understand the situation that they're in? So then thinking about data viz best practices, I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier on about not misleading your user, but making sure that you're using good effective charts and making sure that they're well designed. The example of bar charts not starting at 0, and the example we're going to walk through today, we're reworking one of those. So another example is if you were to have like, imagine if you had a dual axis line chart where you've got ice cream sales over time, and then if you had another chart that would say like shark attacks over time, and then if you were to dual axis that and then flip one of the axes so that it looks like one thing is going up while the other thing is going down, that would be miscommunicating the data, especially if you didn't have the axes labeled. So making sure that you're not distorting things, making sure that you're not misleading your audience. That's the big thing, is do things the right way. And actually I've got a good book by Alberto Cairo here, and I don't know if it's going to let me focus, but it's How Charts Lie. It's a very quick read. I think I read it in like a day, but it is a fantastic example of how to go about thinking through how have charts been used in the past to misrepresent and to kind of stretch the truth, and making sure that we're not in the camp that stretches the truth. A couple of other ideas are leveraging pre-attentive attributes to draw your user's attention to specific insights. So a couple examples of that are size or color, whether that be in terms of the hue, the actual like the color itself, or the intensity of something. Is it a very sharp contrast against a background, or is everything pretty much transparent and this thing just really sticks out? So a couple of different things there. With respect to pre-attentive attributes, if you Google pre-attentive attributes, Tableau actually has a resource that if Jim, you want me to link that later on, I can send a link to that. Good examples for how to leverage pre-attentive attributes in your design. And then another concept is known as Gestalt principles, which kind of to that, it's very similar to pre-attentive attributes, but basically it talks about like the arrangement of things, if things are grouped. One of the recommended resources I have in the back of my presentation is Storytelling with Data by Cole Nussbaumer-Knaflic. She has a very good section about pre-attentive attributes, Gestalt principles of design. In addition to, I think, Makeover Monday by Andy Kriebel and Eva Murray, they also talk about that in terms of best design practices. So with that, building your dashboard. So by this point in time, we have an understanding of our data, we've got insights, we've got the right types of charts, and we're leveraging best practices to ensure that we're not misleading our audience. So we've got well-designed charts, and what we need to do is, as we look to assemble them on a dashboard, thinking about padding and spacing, and making sure that we're not overwhelming our audience. We're packing so much information. Packing a lot of information could be a good thing, but if it's busy and it's hard for your user to be able to see what they're looking at and understand it, that can be really hard. So making sure that we're setting up our user for success in terms of giving our visualization some room to breathe, so that there's a natural progression of the eye kind of knows where to go. So providing the user with context, either whether that be via a text box or drawing attention to specific things with color, blending. Again, this relates to understanding your user, but understanding whether or not it's appropriate to incorporate any sort of interactivity, whether that be via tooltips or that has to do with, like a click, an action filter, a navigation action, different types of things that you can do to ensure that the dashboard is well received and adopted by your audience. And then thinking about the user path, and this kind of relates to the first point, but I like to think through it this way with really kind of 3 themes of questions. So what is happening at a very high level? And then the next step, why is this happening, or where is this happening? Trying to pinpoint, if we've got a specific number that we know needs to hit something, and if it's not there, trying to figure out what is potentially a root cause. And then that's usually where most business analysis stops, just in my experience. But the companies that really move the bar and are able to set their peers up for success, they ask kind of this next follow-up series of questions of how can we make an impact and what can we do about it? So whether that be, okay, we can see that tables is really low in profit, then being able to say, okay, well, let's click this button and let's explore specific products, or clicking and that prompts open your mail service to shoot an email to the person and calling it out directly so that action can be taken. The call to action, the so what behind this. So the last point here is sharing your work. And I mentioned this a little bit already, but sharing is a great way for your audience to be able to consume the data and be able to interact with it. So if it's internal use only, most companies, what they're doing is they've got a Tableau server or an online platform where that allows them to control the access, the governance, and the dissemination of the work that's been put together. If it is an external or it's a public-facing data source and it's totally comfortable living out there on the web and there doesn't need to be that type of governance behind it, consider Tableau Public. Tableau Public has more than 2 million authors around the world, and it's been a phenomenal opportunity to learn and to be surrounded by people who are all learning and growing and sharing their work. And there are several people on this call that I really highly respect because of some of the work that they've done, that they've shared, that's enabled me to learn and grow as a result. So let's kind of turn the page here, and I got a couple minutes left, but I want to walk through an example of Makeover Monday from week 23. So this is a summary of the average hours of sleep per day across several different things. So over a year, I think there's about 15 years here with this, by age, so male and female, age by age brand, whether that be like ages 18 to like 25, or like 25 to 34, and sex, so male, female, and then the type of day. So is it a non-holiday weekday, or is it a weekend or holiday? So that's a little confusing now that I say that. Basically, would it be a normal business working day? That's probably a better way to put it, but the type of day. So it's the American Time Use Survey from 2003 to 2017 from the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics. So let's be like part of the elf here, and let's jump in. Can everybody see my Tableau desktop screen here?
You're good, Sam. We can see it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so this is kind of the final published dashboard that I've got here, and I'll kind of explain a couple of thoughts here, but I want to explore some of the different things. So the metric that we have here displayed is the average hours per day, kind of broken down by segments. So we've got types of days, age group, and sex. So what we can see here is over time, there's a bunch of kind of ups and downs that are taking place here. Nothing really dramatic is changing. So this might not necessarily be the most valuable insight, just looking at it from a year by year type of change. If we look at it in terms of segmenting it out by groups, this is what I like to call, this is a jitter plot. And this is a way that you can visualize a distribution. So what I have here, looking at the type of day, what we can see is that non-holiday weekdays, probably the average is around 8.5 hours of sleep across the different demographics. And then when we think about it from 8.7 to almost 10.75 hours of sleep in terms of weekends and holidays, more people get sleep on the holidays, gives them an opportunity to sleep in. And then when we think about it, okay, men and women, there's really not a big difference here. So similar to year, maybe there's not a humongous change with respect to sex. So then next, if we think about it from the perspective of age group, this was something I found to be really fascinating, where what we have here are our weekends and holidays, and here we have our non-holiday weekdays, which kind of makes sense because you had that break. But what we see here is there's a huge gap between really people under the age of 34, and then it starts to tighten here. Maybe these folks are sleep-deprived parents, and eventually, once people generally like to hang things up and make a decision to go off into retirement after the age of 65, then they don't have a lot of variability in their sleep patterns. So fascinating things there, regardless of if it's a weekday or a weekend. And then looking at it by year, as we kind of see on the line chart, there's not a whole big difference there. So then thinking about, so if we're trying to analyze by different segments of the population, if we just unselect everybody, this is the normal distribution that we would see. And it's interesting, we had this peak around 8. Maybe people are just saying for the sake of simplicity, I sleep 8 hours a day. But what if we wanted to explore a specific subsegment of the population? What we can see, kind of like what we got an example of the folks under the age of 35, we see that they get this, the share of it, where people under the age, the people 35 and over, they aren't really getting more than 9.5 hours of sleep. So, and then if we were to break this down, non-holiday weekends, and then let's look at none. This I think is kind of telling here, where non-holiday weekdays, you have much less sleep, and then the remainder of this would be the weekends. So that's an example with that. A variation of a line chart is what's referred to as a slope chart, or in this case, I've got the min and max value of 2003 and 2017 to be able to show the variation or the change over the entire course of time without having to see a million different lines all kind of going at each other. So then looking at histogram and measurements, what's displayed here inside these bars is the proportion of the selected group. So of non-holiday weekday measurements, 19.4% of them get somewhere between 8.75 and just shy of 9 hours of sleep. In terms of within that group, that's what happens. But what we see here is that outside of this bar, 14.7% of measurements get between 8 and 8.25 hours of sleep. But within non-holiday weekdays, that number is 29%. So that's an example with that. Assembling it together on a dashboard and encouraging interactivity and some exploration here with this. What we can see is that, so let's say we just want to look at men kind of versus women here. What we see are that men have a little bit of a larger amount here on this section, but we can see the different little sections here. And that's just an example of different ways that you can encourage interactivity. If you're looking at trying to communicate certain insights and certain change over time, those are some things that you can consider. But with that, I'll jump back to my presentation here. And I want to share a couple of my favorite resources. I've shared this presentation with Jim, and all of these hyperlinks are active. So if you want to dig into these things, if he makes the decision to send it out, then you can just jump in right here. So the Tableau e-learning platform, that's where I got my start 2 years ago. The Tableau knowledge base, where a lot of the hyperlinks that were shared earlier with Kartika's presentation, a lot of references there. Like all of you are doing right now, getting plugged into a user group. Props to you for doing that, because this is a great way to network with other people who are in the tool or trying to learn the tool, or who are experts in the tool, who are, for the most part, all willing to help and guide people throughout the course of learning Tableau. Tableau conference. This year, it is kind of a hybrid model. 5,000 people coming to Vegas May 17th through the 19th, if you're based in the States. And then I think it's virtually around the Americas then. And then I think it's like the days or so that follow around the rest of the world. So look to attend that. And if you can't attend it in person, look to attend it virtually, carve out some time. There are so many sessions that are out there where you can learn an incredible number of things there. follow Tableau Visionaries, also known as Tableau Zen Masters, or formerly known as that, on social media. And then following the hashtag DataFam on Twitter. That is one of the coolest environments that I've ever been able to take part of as a member of the DataFam, and learning and growing and being able to contribute and inspire. It's been a whole lot of fun being a part of that. In terms of different things that you can do to skill up, either skill up or contribute, I'll say, to the Tableau community. Workout Wednesday, which is basically a technical challenge. I've done every challenge that's been published 2018 through current. And I would say that Workout Wednesday has been the thing that's allowed me to be as effective as I am as a consultant in terms of understanding what Tableau is capable of. So massive props to Luke Stanky and Sean Miller and Eric Hughes and Kyle Yetter and Lorna Brown. They're the folks that run that program, and it is fantastic. And there's so much out there. Highly encourage it. Back to Viz Basics, that was started by, I think, Eric Balash. And it's basically, they give you a specific, really targeted challenge, like build a scatter plot, build a bar chart. And basically it's for those who are really new in either in data visualization or in Tableau, back to Viz Basics, that allows you to kind of flex those muscles of, okay, I'm going to just focus on building a bar chart. Got it, done. And then Sports Biz Sunday, there's specific data that gets compiled for that. That pertains to whether that be like women's sports or the PGA stuff, or there's a bunch of different stuff that's out there. Every week, the folks who run that program, they share out kind of a weekly roundup where they scrape the data fam and sports visualizations that are out there, and they share that with the rest of the community, and it's a ton of fun. Makeover Monday, it's no longer being actively maintained by Andy Kriebel or Eva Murray, but there's more than 300 data sources out there that are kind of cleanly put together. So if you're trying to get an opportunity to exercise and work through these muscles a little bit to learn and grow, I've already mentioned a couple of the. There we go.
Sorry for the interruption.
It's all good. It's all good, Jim. A couple of books about data visualization, Tableau. So storytelling with data. If you're just getting into data visualization, I would highly recommend this book, because while it's not focused on Tableau, it talks about the concepts of understanding, how to effectively and clearly communicate with data. And that is, I'd say, probably one of the most important things that I could ever recommend, is knowing how to effectively communicate what you're trying to communicate. Big Book of Dashboards by Steve Wexler, Jeff Schaefer, and Andy Cottergreave. This book is very, very thick, but that's because it's full of a ton of pictures. So would highly, highly recommend, if your library has it, check it out. It's got so many great examples of different ways that you can understand a use case, whether that be sports analytics or like a sales dashboard or like a hospital management dashboard. It's got a bunch of different examples in there that you can draw inspiration from if you're feeling stuck and you're trying to visualize something specifically. Makeover Monday, the book by Andy Kriebel and Eva Murray. This book, it's very similar to storytelling with data, but it kind of talks about more with a Tableau focus, I guess is kind of how I would put it. But it's a very well put together book that explains many of the different concepts, and then specifically through the lens of being able to go through a Makeover Monday challenge, and kind of very similar to what my content on my presentation was today. But would highly recommend that book. And then 2 books by Ryan Sleeper, Practical Tableau and Innovative Tableau. Both of those, the first one is kind of like the first 100 little tips and nuggets that can help you become a really awesome Tableau developer. And the Innovative Tableau is like a 200 level course at a college compared to a 100 level course at a college. Innovative Tableau, it stretches you to learn a bunch of different things to be able to apply them into the dashboard work that you do. So with that, anybody got any questions? I hope that I don't get the type of visceral response from the press here that Ted Lasso gets, but we'll see here.
Sam, there was one question in the chat, and that had to do with the word pre-intentive, and
yes,
what does it mean, and can you kind of summarize it for the group?
Yeah, so I guess a good way that I would think about it is kind of like your first instinct or your first reaction. So Daniel Kahneman has a really good book, Thinking Fast and Slow, where he talks about two different kinds of thinking. Fast thinking, which is kind of like the quick, pre-attentive type of, when your eyes see this is what your brain thinks within the first 5 seconds. That's kind of how I would describe pre-attentive. And then slow thinking is kind of like the more drawn out, deliberate type of way of looking at it. Does that answer the question, you think?
A little bit. I was like I've just never heard the word before. So I was trying to understand just better, like how they measure it, or like how I guess it's based on research.
Mm-hmm. Yes. If we think about what are probably the root words here, pre, which suggests something before, and then attentive, which I would assume relates to attention. So thinking about where are your eyes drawn, or what is pulling your attention in. I know that there is a fair amount of research about it. I haven't read the research, but based off of the things that I've read about the research, pre-attentive attributes allow you to communicate specifically with data fairly effectively, quickly, and early on.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Sam? Okay, Sam, really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. And if you want to follow me or get connected with me, you can find me on Tableau Public, Sam Epley, LinkedIn, Sam Epley, Twitter, Epley Samuel, and Instagram, the Sam Epley. And Jim, if it's appropriate to send out my presentation, all of these links are active.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, what I'll do, Sam, is I'll just attach it to the meeting so that they can pull it up directly off the hub. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. Enjoyed you being here today.
Thank you.
Okay. The last thing I'd like to do today is just kind of go over the community spotlight once again. And Sam mentioned this. The convention, TC22, is going to be live in Vegas. It's going to be May 17th through 19th. I plan on being there. I am definitely going to be there. So if you're there, stop by, look me up. I'd love to meet you in person. Stop by, shake hands. If you're not going to be able to be there, it will also be virtual. And I personally don't know the details of the virtual part of it, but I do plan on being there. Okay, something that's near and dear to my heart is the newbie user group. As you know, Klaus Schulte and I co-lead that group. Our next, and thank you people for attending. I know Pam's been there, but our next meeting is May 26th at 11 o'clock Nashville time. So if you're in some other time zone, you'll have to adjust from there. Oh, I said, I'm sorry. It still says Steve. Steve presented at our last meeting. Sarah Battersby is going to do mapping at our next meeting. And if you've never heard Sarah speak, you're missing something. And if you have heard Sarah speak, I know you'll want to hear her again. She's just absolutely fabulous. Job seekers, I know of two things. I know that Tableau is still hiring. I know that JLL is still hiring. Are there does anybody else know of open opportunities out there that need to be filled? Just unmute your mic and jump on in here.
I got one from Exalis, locally here in Nashville. Looking for a business intelligence developer. They are a Tableau shop, so I'm looking for a Tableau developer there.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody looking for work and they'd like to make that known?
This is Brian Kirk. I'm at Transcore, and we're always looking for some SQL developers, but also I'm biased because we use SQL for a lot of sources for our Tableau reports. So Tableau / SSMS people.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. As far as the Nashville Tug's concerned, we've got an opening, at least one opening on the leadership team. If you're interested in being part of the leadership team, if you want to be involved on the inside, help determine the content of the meeting, like we were looking at where we're going to meet, the location, and Are we going to be live? We're going to be virtual. You can be part of those decision-making processes. Please let anybody on the current team know. You can ping me directly, or you can put a note in the chat, because we'd like to add a couple of people to the overall leadership team. I want to go over the schedule for the next couple of months. The next meeting is April 25th. And please note the time. It's going to be at 1:30 Nashville time in the afternoon. It's going to be earlier, 1:30. Because of the conference in Las Vegas in May, we are not going to have a May meeting. So we're going to be off on May. And in June, we're planning, and I think I heard people say we want to do some sort of hybrid meeting, and we'll be making that decision. But the meeting will be scheduled for the 29th, and it'll be at 5 p.m. So we'll find, stay tuned. We'll find the location and get that out to you, so we can plan.
Anybody wants to volunteer their conference room, please step up.
Yep. Absolutely. And if not the conference room, then we'll meet someplace at a bar. I don't know. We won't be a live meeting of that.
If you guys want to come down to Atlanta, we'll host you.
No.
Now, I got to tell you the truth. Atlanta had a live meeting right around the holidays. I'm not sure it was a live meeting, but it certainly was a live get together, because they did have it at one of the local pubs. And I don't know if Michael attended, but I know some people that attended. Okay.
I did. I think the way your poll showed it is probably a better way. That way it's not too rowdy, but it's up to you.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much for attending. Does anybody have anything that they want to talk about before we sign off today?